lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tristan. First of all, I'd like all elected officials to stand, or if you're going to run for a position as an elected official. Just going to walk around and let you introduce yourself.
I'm Mike Tuttle, and I'm running for Laramie County Sheriff this next election, and I'm the great-grandson of John L. Murray, who was the mayor of Cheyenne from 1901 to 1903, so I'm a native of Wyoming. I love Wyoming, and we need to change things. We need to get it back to where they should be. Sheriff.
And I'm Emily Hayes, now Laramie County Commissioner. I was elected a little over a year ago, and is proud to serve the Laramie County true bosses. I've always called you that. You're the ones that get involved. And after what you've learned today, I hope you become an army of one. Because an educated voter, that is the best kind, to go to these council meetings, these city planning meetings, and county commissioners planning meetings, and you can be that army of one to express your points of view, and that's how we're going to get this country back. Today we're going to be talking about Plan Cheyenne. You say, what's a county commissioner talking about Plan Cheyenne for? Well, it goes about 20 miles south of town to the border. It goes 5 miles out into the county past Archer. It goes 5 miles north. It also includes our base. So this is intertwined between county and city issue. This was adopted in 2006. Most of the funding comes from Map 21. Check this out. Map 21, moving ahead for progress in the 21st century. This was an Act, Bill 1813. Is sponsored by Senator Barbara Boxer, Democrat from California, a chairman of the Senate Transportation Committee, aka the Environmental and Public Works Committee. This was co-sponsored by Max Baucus. See where we're going? This is MAP 21 funding. Check this out, the United Nations Plan for Global Sustainable Development. The APA, Global Income Redistribution, has been stealthily adopted throughout local, state, and federal governments all across the nation, inconsistently named programs. Here's the bad part. Now for more extreme environmental regulations are about to be forced on Americans by tacking them onto a transportation bill. When you go to the county meetings coming up, hopefully, you will hear them introduce, this is MAP 21 funding. Those are code words for sustainability and it being forced on you to go green. Today we're going to have a speaker from Fort Collins. The same plan that was adopted in Fort Collins was adopted here in Laramie County by the city of Cheyenne. Please welcome Stacy Lynne, an independent investigator, journalist, fact-based reporter on local government issues.
Good afternoon. It's wonderful to see all of you here today. I would like to start by thanking Barry Meyer for setting the wheels in motion for this. He came to me through Arizona, and it is a small world after all. He hooked us up, the commissioner and I, up for this. So thank you all for the effort it took to get here. We're going to move through this pretty quickly. There's a lot to cover. You probably know a lot of the basic information, but I'll be able to show you how it looks in Fort Collins and how it's going to look in Cheyenne, because they're the exact same plans. So we did kind of go over this already. Thank you for the candidate for sheriff. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to see you, and good luck in your endeavors. This is basically what we're going to do. So I'm going to have guidelines for discussion, and I know you're accustomed to town hall meetings. They can get intense at times. And because of the information we're going to be covering today, a lot of times these presentations make you feel quite angry, agitated, and so we'll go over kind of how we're going to handle all of that. We will end with audience questions. That's one of my favorite aspects of these presentations, is hearing from you and knowing what is concerning you the most. So we do have a room full of people with diverse political views. Most of you know each other, but we do have a lot of people that probably haven't been here before, so thank you for that also. We're going to be civil in our discussion. We're going to be very honest. So frankness is good. I encourage the tough questions that you have, please ask those at the end. And so my goal is to just offer information that's accurate. It is based on the plans, Plan Cheyenne, and the documents that go along with those. Opinion is going to be almost non-existent. There are times that will be comical and it will be difficult not to laugh, but most of this is going to be fact-based. So who am I? I am an independent investigative journalist. I have been focused for the past 6 years on plans like this throughout the United States and also throughout the world. I have invested most of the past 6 years looking into these plans and how they impact every one of you in the room. I am not an attorney. I do not provide any legal advice. So my intent is to help you learn more about what's coming your way and hopefully give you some ideas for solutions about how to possibly stop this, if that's how you feel at the end of the presentation. Unfortunately, this plan does impact senior citizens, families, low-income populations, disabled populations. These plans really do impact you the most. Why do I care? I am truly here because I'm concerned about what's coming Cheyenne's way. I'm concerned about how it's going to hurt each person who lives in this community. I started this about 6 years ago because the city took over some private, small, locally owned businesses, and it didn't make sense to me why they were doing that, so I started to ask questions. And when I asked them what their motivation was for taking control of these private businesses, they said that Fort Collins would be a lot better community if we had all of the same kind of trash cans on the curb. That was their first response to me. It didn't make a lot of sense, so I began to get a little more involved in my community. So what did the city's goals mean to the people? And what happened was the city of Fort Collins was going to use their plan, just like Plan Cheyenne, to eliminate these businesses without compensation. They were not going to pay them for putting them out of business. We had 3 small locally owned businesses that were the target. They employed hundreds of people locally. And one of the businesses they were attacking most was the largest minority-owned business in northern Colorado. We were going to lose hundreds of jobs, and those people were not going to be employed in other fields in Fort Collins, so it would have impacted our community pretty severely. So quick facts about the City of Cheyenne's Plan Cheyenne. It was adopted in 2006, and the update that you're facing right now includes major changes. The first 7 years of this plan were used as a test period. They wanted to see, the consulting firm wanted to see how the people of Cheyenne reacted to the first 6 years, and then how much they could basically add on to the plan, which will be voted on in March. There was, the consulting firm is Clarion Consulting Firm, and they were the same people who did Plan Fort Collins. Clarion claims that there was extensive public participation in this Plan Cheyenne, and that includes 30 committee members and then 45 members of the public. So basically, 75 people have guided the future, the next 20 to 40 years of Cheyenne. Plan Cheyenne, what the whole purpose of Plan Cheyenne is to bring the city's regulations that exist now into compliance with the plan. So if you think about what that means, all of the regulations that the city has now are going to be morphed into Plan Cheyenne. So all of that work that officials have done prior to now basically become irrelevant. So let's talk about land use. This is the first major change in Plan Cheyenne. The natural trends for land use in Laramie County and Cheyenne is that people prefer large lots for their homes. They like to have a lot of space between them and their neighbors, and they like the open feel. The plan's goals are for compact development patterns. High-density housing is what the plan is bringing to Cheyenne, even though your natural desires are for large open lots. For their transportation issue, the natural trends that Plan Cheyenne has identified is that people prefer to travel freely and at times that meet their work schedules and their family responsibilities. The plan's goals are to teach people how to plan their days better so that they can walk and bike instead of drive their cars. Historic preservation is another major update. And again, the natural trends show that private ownership and individual control of property is preferred. And the plan's goals are to control property values in downtown Cheyenne and to use historic districts to raise the cost of living in those established neighborhoods, those old, wonderful neighborhoods that you have downtown with the big trees and the wide streets. That's the focus of this plan update. Regionally appropriate architecture is a key update for Plan Cheyenne. And so what these 75 people have basically decided is what is appropriate for Cheyenne. So if your design and remodel plans don't fit the requirements, then you have a long process to go through. And most of the times, because they don't comply with Plan Cheyenne, you will be denied that. So those 75 people who have done this major update are now guiding what your personal property looks like, your businesses and your homes. What is community visioning? Plan Cheyenne says that this process was done through community visioning. And so the first question is, well, whose vision is it? Who's visioning this? So raise your hand if you participated in Plan Cheyenne's creation. One person, 2 people? Excellent. So 2 people out of this room have participated. Oh, so she just put a disclaimer. She said it wasn't a real participation, though, and we'll go into what that probably means. So Plan Cheyenne is Plan Fort Collins, is Plan New York City, and is Green Print Denver. And these are all across the United States. Most of them are called Plan, and then whatever your city's name is. And some of them, like Denver, have been creative and call it Green Print Denver, but they are all the same plan. So these binders hold the basic documents for Plan Cheyenne. This is the Plan Cheyenne Foundation. It's over 500 pages. It is really entertaining bedtime reading. This is the Unified Development Code. This is the sister document to Plan Cheyenne. And this is almost 400 pages. And these 2 documents are inseparable. They go hand in hand. The UDC was updated in October of 2013 so that it could be in place for the update of Plan Cheyenne. We also have our foundations of LEED and the U.S. Green Building Council, which we'll get into that more. We're actually sitting in a LEED certified building right now. And I would like to take a break and introduce the gentleman who can you join us on the stage, sir? We'd like to recognize, yes, sir. We'd like to recognize the officials who joined us today. I have not officially met this individual. I saw him speak on Monday night when I was here, and I will let him introduce himself.
Well, thank you for giving me this thing, lady. I'm Taylor Haynes, and I'll be your next governor of the state of Wyoming. You don't have to worry about unlawful, unconstitutional intrusion of the federal government. Thank you.
So those 3 binders there are the future of Cheyenne for at least until 2040. And what happens is those are very complex documents that leads to chaos and confusion. And most people just simply get tired and they throw up their hands and say, I quit. I don't get tired so easy, and I actually like to help people learn what's coming their way that's going to impact them negatively. So that's why I'm here, to help with the confusion and the chaos. How much will Plan Cheyenne cost you? Does anyone know? Have you heard in the papers, news, people have reported how much this will cost?
All I know is every city that adopts it's broke.
Yeah, so almost every city that has used it is broke. So what is grant money? Does anybody know?
Free money, tax money.
Yes, our money. So a lot of times you hear that these programs will be run by grant money, but grant money comes from the people. The people pay taxes, it goes up to the state level and the federal level. It's, grant money is all your money. What happens when that grant money is gone? So they start these programs with grant monies and then it's gone, then what happens? Taxes. All right. How do the consultants determine what will happen in Cheyenne in 2040?
They guess.
They use models. So what's wrong with using models for this kind of a complex plan? There are too many variables. There's no way they can possibly predict what's going to happen even in 5 years. So the reason that matters is we have almost 1,000 pages here of plans for your future based on guesses and without any costs assigned to them. Who's going to run all these new programs? We need more employees, more staff, more departments, more committees, more boards, and more commissions. Because there's no way that the city in the county that's in place right now can handle this kind of an update. Why don't the consulting firms tell you how much this will cost?
They don't know.
They don't know, but they do have some pretty good statistics that they don't want you to know.
Statistics are dollars.
Statistics are dollars, that's a good point. So here's the question, is it socially, morally, ethically, and legally responsible to vote in favor of a plan that does not have a budget?
No.
That's what's happening. All right, so key topics in Plan Cheyenne: transportation, housing, and education, but it's not the kind of education you're thinking. It's the education that will teach you what you're not doing properly. Remember how you're not planning your days wisely, so you need to learn how to walk and bike instead of drive your car? They'll teach you how to do that, how to incorporate that into your daily living. What is the mission? This is directly from the documents. Everything I say here today is from the documents that are in front of us. They want to make Cheyenne more sustainable, to reduce carbon emissions, to make Cheyenne more livable by teaching people how to walk and ride their bikes instead of drive, to create compact housing developments, and to teach private business owners how to use government-approved products and methods. Where did the Foundation for Plan Cheyenne originate? You've all heard about the Community Vision 2020. That was the foundation for years ago. That's where everything started. And then Vision 2020 came from mandated policies and regulations from the European Union and other countries that they are enforcing on the United States. The goal, and the reason it's called 2020, is the United States is supposed to reduce our carbon emissions by 80% by the year 2020. We'll talk about carbon dioxide in a moment also. So how is this mission accomplished? Plan Cheyenne and the Unified Development Codes are living documents. They actually say that inside, that are automatically implemented by staff and employees without input from elected city and county officials. So these documents now become the rules, and your elected officials have been stripped of their authority to represent you. The plan says this: Cheyenne's unique Western heritage will be preserved. All right, so here's two photos. Can you see the photos okay from here? I can't really see. So these two photos, one is from Cheyenne and one is from Fort Collins. Can you tell the difference? We both have the same islands down the middle of our entryways to our town. And truly, you can't tell. If you just glance at these photos, it does look like the same place. Is the Laramie County Library Design Western Heritage? You ready for this? Fort Collins Museum looks a lot like Cheyenne's library. Western Heritage? All right, so we are in a LEED certified building. It is a gold level building. What is LEED? It stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. That's also known as GREEN. It is a consensus-based rating that is created by stakeholders. The U.S. and the World Green Building Council have created this rating system. The stakeholders rate their own products, which means there's built-in bias and conflict of interest. Scientific studies about the LEED program actually say that the scientific results show that these buildings are not saving energy and it's costing a lot more to build them. So always consider that when you see that something is green or energy savings. Always wonder what's behind it and who has classified it as that. So, LEED classification is not scientifically proven to save energy or money, but right outside in the hallway, it tells you how this building is saving you money. U.S. Green Building Council governs the LEED program. So, what's their stake in it? What does the U.S. Green Building Council get from certifying a building like this? Control, recognition, kickbacks, all of those things. LEED points are awarded to this building. They're points to get their rating higher. They have bronze, silver, gold, platinum. So you have recycle bins inside this building, and this building gets more points because there are recycle bins. So let's talk about recycling. Recycling does not occur when you simply place an item in a recycle bin. Recycling means you use a product again. It's made into another product to be used again. So there's a whole process involved with recycling besides just throwing it in your plastic bin. Most recycled products are more expensive due to the increased steps involved and because of the toxic chemicals that that process involves. So glass. You throw your glass to be recycled, less than 30% of the glass that you put in your bins is actually recycled. 70% of it is separated out and still goes to the landfill. You recycle your newspaper. When they take the ink off of that newspaper, it creates a toxic sludge. And a lot of times that toxic sludge is being put directly into the rivers. Plastic. How much is 1 ton of plastic worth? What's the value? And think about it this way. 1 ton of plastic, it takes about 20,000 plastic bottles to make a ton. So how much do you think that is worth, 1 ton of plastic? Less than 10 cents. That is just the base value of a ton of plastic, less than 10 cents. So when you consider what you do with that plastic, where does it go? Does anyone know where your plastic goes from here? It goes to a holding facility in Denver, and once they have enough plastic in Denver, they put it on containers and take it to the coast, ship it all the way across the country, and then that plastic goes on barges to China. So think about the carbon costs and the cost involved with 1 ton of plastic. Compact fluorescent light bulbs, that's the energy efficient thing to do to save the planet, to decrease the global warming. But what's happening with the CFLs, you all know there's 14 steps involved if a compact fluorescent light bulb breaks. Raise your hand if you know what steps are involved to safely take care of a CFL when it breaks. Okay, so we have 5 people in this room who are actually taking care of the planet because they're appropriately handling the mercury that's inside those CFLs. So what happens is they're not saving money, they're a lot more expensive, and when they break, especially for women of childbearing age and young children, there's a powder inside those light bulbs that once it hits the carpet especially, you can't get rid of it. The EPA actually suggests that you remove all the carpeting because every time you vacuum over that, it releases that dust and it goes directly into your system. So compact fluorescent light bulbs are classified as household hazardous waste, which means you cannot legally throw them in your trash. This is on the bulletin board outside of this room. Come to Fort Collins and be scared to death. This is a frightening poster. It says, can a collapse of global civilization be avoided? A dramatic cultural change is needed for averting calamity. What's the calamity? What's the dramatic change? And why do you have to go to Fort Collins to find out? All right, this is on the Colorado State University campus. It's called the Center for Environmental Management of Military Lands. So what happens with windmill farms? They're actually interfering with our ability to monitor radars, or for radar effectiveness, and to monitor nuclear explosions. Windmill farms are that powerful, they're interfering with that. So tanks are in a wonderful, oh, by the way, I always do this, and I'm surprised I forget. If you have served this country in the military, will you please raise your hand? Look at that, gives me chills. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's beautiful. I have not served in the military, but I feel your sacrifice and I'm grateful for it. So here's what they're doing to tanks in the name of saving the planet. Because the tanks have a carbon footprint that's quite a bit larger than a vehicle, they're making the armor lighter so they get better gas mileage. The Energy Independence and Security Act of 2007 bans our military from purchasing domestic oil sources. All right, so this was in the paper a couple days ago. The wind energy industry, their tax credits are expiring. So the future of the wind energy industry is uncertain. What that means is, because we are not subsidizing them anymore, there really is no future for wind energy because it's not producing the changes that we were hoping for. Electric vehicles are powered by coal, but people don't think that through that process. They're thinking they're saving the planet by driving an electric vehicle, but you have to charge that electric vehicle, and that electricity is generated by coal. What does the science say about the LEED claims of the energy efficiency and financial savings? Remember, this building is LEED certified as gold. You're only one step away from platinum. The Illinois Institute of Technology says little performance data has ever been available to confirm the allegations of saving energy. So why are we spending so much time and money on certifying buildings that aren't actually saving us money or helping the environment? All right, if you have a dime, get out a dime real quick. What do football fields, dimes, and termites have to do with Plant Cheyenne? If you have a dime, you're going to be glad you got one out. So this football field represents our atmosphere. 100 yards, all of the gases, all of the greenhouse gases in our environment. Nitrogen is huge, oxygen, we have water vapor. The orange is argon. We're getting way down to the bottom. And if you stand that dime on end, stand it up on your table, that is the total amount of carbon dioxide in Earth's atmosphere. Out of this 100 yards, that little dime on a football field on the goal line, that is equivalent to 38 1,000ths of 1% of carbon dioxide in Earth's atmosphere. One thin dime. That's what the Plan Cheyenne is based on, is reducing carbon dioxide emissions. Now we all want a healthy environment for our children and our grandchildren. I do, and I'm very careful and responsible with what I do with the planet and the land around me, including the people who live on it. So one thin dime, how about termites? Methane gas expelled from termites. Methane gas from termites. It's 21 times more potent than the greenhouse gas effect from carbon dioxide. Yikes. So we have 7 billion people on the planet. Each person on the planet has the equivalent of 1,000 pounds of termites that go with them. That's a lot of methane. So why are we worried about carbon dioxide? It comes mainly from keeping us alive. Our food, our fuel. Everybody take a deep breath. Hold it. Keep holding it. You have just reduced your carbon footprint. And what the most extreme people would like you to do is to stop breathing completely. Then you're carbon neutral. You have just made yourself carbon neutral. If you stop breathing permanently, no more worries. Reduction of carbon dioxide is the basis for these long-term plans. Remember how much there is in Earth's atmosphere? 38 1,000ths of 1%. The total amount that human beings are putting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere is 114 100,000ths of 1%. That's our contribution to carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. What happens when you triple the amount of CO2? We actually increase our yields of these life-sustaining grains by 64%. The more CO2 you have, the more grains we have to feed people. All right, 3 art galleries in the past week in Fort Collins have closed. And the reason is, this is a quote from a business owner in downtown Fort Collins, is coming your way. The character of downtown is changing into something that many of us are not pleased with. Because what's being forced out are the businesses that gave downtown the character. It gave people who came from out of town a reason to come here. This is in Cheyenne, you recognize, isn't this a cool building? Will this business be forced to match the approved architectural design requirements in Plan Cheyenne? Now this is unique. This is truly a unique building. I love this building. But how long is it going to be in that condition? Who will pay for this building to be in compliance with Plan Cheyenne? You all recognize this one? It's a flea market just down this direction. This way. So who's going to pay for that? Because it's not in compliance. And where will these cars park if there's a bike lane added to this road? Businesses right now depend on people driving up to the storefront, doing their business and being able to drive away. And here's another building. Who's going to pay for this one? Because this is not unique Western heritage as described in Plan Cheyenne. And there's another one. You have a lot of buildings in downtown that simply do not match the requirements in these plans. All right, this is on Monday, February 3rd, the Planning Commission in Cheyenne. How many Planning Commission board members read Plan Cheyenne before they voted in favor of it? Do you remember who was there when I asked that question? I held up the plan and I said, how many of you read this? What did they say? None. Nobody read the plan before they adopted it. 2 people did vote against it. I was very proud to see that. That was very encouraging to see the courage for 2 people to vote against this plan. Plan Fort Collins began in 1997, and we used our snapshot process just like Plan Cheyenne did. Now, I said, why don't they ever say how much this is going to cost? I finally found a funding source on one of our propaganda banners in the Senior Center in Fort Collins, and the funding says, funding. It's a goal to track the cost savings that directly result from energy and water conservation. Is that funding?
That's a guess.
That doesn't even say anything close to what the funding source is or the cost. It just says they're going to track the savings. But remember, what does the science say about lead savings and energy savings? They don't exist across the board. So these are Fort Collins goals to be achieved by 2020. Cheyenne has the same goals to be achieved by 2020. And the way you're going to do that is by tracking the savings and not worrying about how much it's costing. All right, bad news for farmers and ranchers, raise your hand. Any farmers and ranchers? Also, thank you. I know it's hard work. Here's what's coming. Fort Collins will be one of 7 climate hubs to help farmers and ranchers understand the weather.
Snowing out, right?
I love this group. All right, this is what infill looks like. Another one of the major plans, updates for Plan Cheyenne, is that you're going to have a lot of infill. Because remember, even though you want wide open spaces, the plan says you have to have compact development, high density areas. So this is infill, very large buildings in very small areas. This is next to a strip of mom and pop locally owned shops in Fort Collins. They have built this monster of I'm not sure how you would describe that, but it kind of looks like a milk carton stood on end. And so there are no parking spaces associated with these massive infill projects. They have a lot of bike racks in the middle of this area, but there's no place to park.
Right in the snow.
Infill, art, you guys have art in public places coming also, where you will be paying for public art. And this little white statue here, actually Fort Collins paid a lot of money. The city of Fort Collins taxpayers paid for this marble chunk to be carved in public over the summer. And they did it in Old Town Square so that people could watch the process. And when it was done, the entire community was horrified. Why? Because it didn't match our architectural history. This does not go anywhere comfortably in Fort Collins. So the people protested and they moved it, spent $70,000 to move this marble chunk to a site that most people don't usually see. It's expensive art. Here's more infill. Do you see this little blue house? This is in a community, a little neighborhood just like downtown Cheyenne, and behind it they are building this monster infill project again. So what's happening to the property values for that blue house owner? Are they ever going to be able to sell it? Probably not. But they can tear it down and put up another big project. So this is what it looks like. Where these buildings are now used to be these small homes, like you saw the blue house. These all used to be a block full of single-family homes. Again, there's no parking spaces for these new developments. All right, so another goal is to eliminate affordable housing, and I know that sounds extreme, but the way they do it is to say, this is not attractive, it doesn't meet the guidelines in the plan, we need to figure out a way to get rid of these mobile home communities. This is along the river, the Poudre River, along the bike trail, and until about a year ago, this was full of affordable homes. They have all been destroyed, demolished, and all of the people who have lived there for decades, many of them older folks, are probably living in Cheyenne. A lot of people had to leave Fort Collins because they could not afford, once they were forced out of their homes. And here's one that is lagging. This home is now on wheels and is waiting for the snow to melt so that they can move it. This is the last one in that whole community. Infill. See the little house with the green trim? That's in our downtown neighborhood. And then they built another house next to it. And if you can see, it goes from the sidewalk and it goes way back into the alley. So this house has now consumed an entire lot. Instead of a house being built on a lot and having green space around it, there is no green space because it's not responsible to have grass and gardens and things you need to water. This is a good example also. See the little house there? They used to have another little house next door, but this is infill. And unfortunately, because of the direction this house was built, this home never gets sun anymore. Doesn't matter what season it is or what time of day it is, this home is always in the shade. So they're not able to grow their own vegetable gardens or even flowers. There's another little tiny greenhouse, huge house next to it. Again, it's blocked from the sun. So you wonder, what about privacy? What about property rights of the original owners? Where does that all go? Another info. Now this is one house, little tiny white house. It used to have another little tiny white house. This is one house, and they call this sustainable development. Thank you, sir. And you know, I just met this young man here. He reminds me of my son. And you know how he spells his name? It is the coolest name. Do you guys know? It's Trustin. Trustin. That is a cool name. Wow. Okay, so this house takes up from the sidewalk all the way back to the alley. And again, this little white house now has no privacy, and they consider this appropriate architectural infill. And again, if you own that white house, how are you going to sell it? You might be able to sell it so that it can be demolished, but is that sustainable? Demolishing houses all the time to build monster houses is not exactly matching what they're asking for in these plans. So what happened? This little white house, the whole neighborhood got together to try to protect and preserve the character of this old neighborhood. They spent months fighting the destruction of the property values and his individual rights. They lost their battle, even though the whole community was against this monster house, because it's in the plan. It's meeting the plan's goals. You want to remodel your private home? Again, Plan Cheyenne has this historic preservation committee. And so if you want to remodel a home that's over 40 years old, you have to get special permits. And it takes almost a year to just do something aesthetically different to the outside of your home. All right, so you've heard about you can qualify for money, for tax credit money, so that you can improve the energy efficiency of your home and your business. People take that money because they want to save money, but what they don't do most of the time is read the fine print. And even Freddie and Fannie said, we are not participating in this tax savings, this energy tax saving programs. You know why? There are automatic liens attached to your property if you take the money. So the federal government has a lien on your home or your business if you take this energy efficiency tax money. Multimodal streets is full in Plan Cheyenne and also in the Unified Development Code. And this little red arrow is pointing to a large arrow that's on the street. It's called a sharrow. So anytime you see a sharrow on the street, that means that bikes are using the lane just like the cars. Even though there's a bike lane, I'm actually parked in the bike lane right now taking this photo. But if there's a bike lane and a regular lane for vehicles, the bikes are allowed to use that lane as if it was a car. So it's called a shareable. Multimodal streets is a big part of your plan. This is LaPorte Avenue. We had it was a 4-lane street, east-west corridor. 2 lanes, one on each side, was removed so that the bike lanes, instead of being 10 feet wide, are now 20 feet wide. So now we have 2 driving lanes and 2 massive bike lanes. Even though we did have a 4-lane road and bike lanes, we have 2 lanes now. So anytime you hear about congestion coming through the modeling they do in Plan Cheyenne, the congestion comes because they're creating the congestion. Where there's not a problem now, they're actually making a problem by taking out driving lanes and expecting you to walk and ride your bike. Now, for the record, because everybody says, well, you just hate the planet. You are just evil, aren't you? I walk and ride my bike every chance I get. I love to do it. I can do it.
Oh, you don't do it during the bad weather?
Well, let's think about Cheyenne, okay? There are times in Cheyenne where you cannot walk from a building to your car without being like parallel to the ground.
That's right.
It doesn't work on a bike. I've tried it. So you have to take into consideration your environment, and that will not work. See, our population is aging. Senior citizens, how are you going to plan into your day to ride your bike or walk from home to the grocery store? How can you do it? And that's where the hard part comes in for me. I do not want to see senior citizens having to figure out how to get from their home to the grocery store on a bike or walking. It's in the plan. So Fort Collins has just updated their mass transit system. The public records for how many people ride a bus in Fort Collins using public transportation is less than 1 person per bus per hour. Think about that. Less than 1 person per bus per hour. We have just added massive amounts of buses, and we proudly now have articulated buses. You know the buses that have the little joints in the middle? Can you imagine how lonely that's going to be for that 1 person?
Carbon footprint.
Carbon footprint significant. There is no public demand for increased mass transit in Fort Collins, but it's in the plan. We took the money and we have to enforce it. Our bus styles are proudly modeled after Germany. I started to wonder, why do I feel like I'm in Germany? Because I've been to Germany and I felt like I was in my city. But now they're actually promoting the fact that we've modeled our mass transit after Hanover, Germany. This is outside in the library's halls here. Make Cheyenne sustainable by promoting a walkable environment. Raise your hand if you walked here today. Yikes. And the reason for that was it's cold, it's windy, it's snowy, it's icy, and because it was your own personal choice to get in your car and drive, right?
25 miles out.
35 miles, you would have had to start walking probably yesterday.
Yes.
Okay, this is Fort Collins. This is along our mass transit corridor. We're building all of our high-density compact houses along our train tracks. Remember the train tracks in Fort Collins run down the middle of the road? We get 10 trains a day, and this is where all of our high-density housing is. 3 or 4 hours, every 3 or 4 hours, and we have to blow the horns of the trains in Fort Collins because we don't have any crossing arms.
Not yes.
We actually can't because you know what the Union Pacific said, and I love this. They said, we're not paying for crossing arms. We were here before you were, and it's not our fault. So we have the train tracks, we have compact housing, and we have sharrows in downtown. That is adding to our congestion. It is not the people that are adding to the congestion, it's the plan that is adding to the congestion. And I am going to take a drink of water, and I noticed another elected official has walked in, so I would like her to come up to the front, please, while I get a drink. Yes, ma'am. And it's an honor to have you here. I would just like you to introduce yourself so people can see. I want to finish chewing, and I'm going to go.
Proud of conservative cookies and
I'm really sorry I couldn't make it earlier, but we had a legislative training today on the budget. It's phenomenal what is going on. But Lynn Hutchings, House District 42, Ocean could have been here earlier. And we only stayed for a little bit. I have another meeting at 5. But thank you so much for coming. I heard you at the county meeting down at the municipal building. You're awesome. And again, just thank you for being here.
This is your representative. I'm going to tell you something about Cheyenne that's unique. What's unique about Cheyenne is there are elected officials in this room. And in Colorado, you wouldn't see that because they're too afraid to be seen learning about programs that they're going to vote on or that's going to impact their constituents. So I am so proud to be here. It's an honor. All right, what is a behavioral sink? Raise your hand if you know what a behavioral sink is.
Potty training?
A behavioral sink occurs because of the way the environment is designed by man. And so these compact, high-density housing areas, combined with walking, biking, train tracks, and all of the designed congestion, is known in psychology and sociology as a behavioral sink. Because when you can concentrate that many human beings and that much activity in one area on purpose, it makes people agitated, anxious, the health rates decline.
What those called prisons.
In other words, prison. But we had an interesting point come up at the Planning Commission on Monday, and that was, it looks like this compact high-density infill, they're designing ghettos.
Yes.
It's exactly, it made somebody think of that. And when you look at it from that perspective, it's tragic, because that's the only thing people are going to be able to afford. And remember, there are no places to park cars. Art in public places is coming your way. We spend thousands upon thousands of dollars painting our green utility boxes in Fort Collins. Now, when you are a child or your parent, you're teaching your children, you stay away from those electrical boxes because they're dangerous. High voltage is inside of them. We have now painted them so attractively that children like to play on them.
Oh, yeah.
That is not socially responsible. What is a living wage? Let's say you're an artist. You choose to be an artist for your life, and you're not very good at it. These plans say that you should still be paid for that, and they're going to find a way to pay you for that, even if you're not very good. So instead of finding something that you are good at, your county and city will pay you for filling a program that they have created. All right, this is downtown Fort Collins. This is an on-street bicycle parking rack. Now, every single space in downtown Fort Collins has been estimated to be valued at $300,000 per year to the surrounding businesses. That's a lot of revenue for those businesses. We're taking out parking spaces and putting bicycle racks in its place. However, there is no request for proposals. This was done under the table. There was no elected official input. Nobody knew what was happening until the bike racks were placed on the street. So we have approximately 11 vehicle spaces that have been taken out for bicycle racks. Even though we have bicycle racks on sidewalks, there's plenty of bike parking, we're taking out vehicle spaces to teach people that bikes and cars are the same. Remember, I ride my bike as much as I can. But to force people who are not able to ride their bikes to find a place to park and to cost businesses that much money, somebody do the math. What's 11 times 300,000? 3,333,000? Is that it? Okay, that's per year that these businesses are losing because of this bicycle rack. Downtown, we're also restricting, and this again is where it gets to my heart. If you don't drive a green car that's low emitting emissions, you are not allowed to park in certain spaces in downtown Fort Collins. Again, this happened because it was in the plan. The elected officials did not know it was coming until I noticed the sign, took a photo, went to city council and said, by the way, what are we doing this for? Because this hurts the most of the population in Fort Collins. They can't park here. The city council didn't know about it. The sign no longer exists. So if you think one person can't make a difference in your community, you can make a difference in your community. Notice things, ask your elected officials about it, and do something about it. So now anybody can park there instead of just people who can afford those green cars. Small hardware store in Fort Collins is being given incentives from the taxpayers through the city for CFL light bulbs because they're too expensive for people to afford, so we're giving tax breaks on them. You're actually paying yourself to buy light bulbs that qualify for rebates. Now, CFLs are toxic waste. You can't throw them in the trash without being fined, but people are anyway, so what's that doing to the environment? It's destroying the groundwater. is filling this groundwater with mercury now that is in a dust form, very difficult to get rid of. So this small business owner is now taking people's household hazardous waste and disposing of it for them. He's doing it because he got grant money to do it. It wasn't costing his business anything, except the grant money ran out. Now his customers are expecting him to still take their trash, and he's paying for it. $100 for about 15 light bulbs cost him to get rid of it. Okay, public-private partnerships is in the plan Cheyenne. So if you're a business, you're struggling, you can go to your city or county, ask for money for help. You will get that money. Of course, it comes with strings, and you have to follow all of their rules and regulations that you didn't have to before as a private business owner. And it creates this competition between small businesses that is unfair. Because if you don't want to take tax money for your business and you're struggling, but your competitor does take tax money, they're going to succeed on your back. And that's where all of the turmoil starts and the unbalance in the markets. This is an $80,000 alley in Loveland, Colorado. It used to service, it used to have trucks that went through there for delivering to the businesses downtown. And now they have benches that face the wall because it's in their plan. So those trucks now drive around and around the block, think about what's doing to fuel costs, to try to find a place to pull over so they can deliver to these businesses. In Johnstown, Colorado, it's a small rural community, very small. They took out driving areas in downtown, put in bike lanes, widened their sidewalks, put in benches. They were losing businesses because of it. Whole businesses were closing. And the farm trucks could no longer drive through downtown without scraping the cars that were parked on the side of the road. So they attempted to recall the mayor. That's what happens when elected officials adopt plans like this and they don't know what they're doing with.
Sort of like here.
So what is synthesizing? How did this plan happen? Planning consultants take what you say during public comments and then they synthesize them. So it makes it sound like you want what they want. That's amazing. They actually have an industry term for changing what you say. And that's what this woman here was saying. She participated, but not really. Because she probably knew what she was saying was not being written down correctly.
We didn't have choices, really.
No choices, yes. This is in Arvada, Colorado. What's a stakeholder? Stakeholders plan this, plan Cheyenne for you. Stakeholders are people who have something to lose or something to gain. It's that simple. Stakeholders are privately invited to meet with city and county officials, and then they're pressured by the stakeholders' competitors to all agree on the same thing. Now, these are your competitors in your room with you. The public's not allowed in there. So these people came to this meeting. Remember the public meeting laws? You're required to have public meetings and everyone's allowed. They're completely subverting that with these plans and only inviting privately some people. So then those people will say, oh yes, I participated and I agree. But the amount of pressure they put on these private business owners is immense. So these older men and women wanted to participate in this planning process. They actually brought the police and prevented these people from attending a public meeting. Consensus is how this document was formed. All consensus means is a group of people get together and decide something. If everyone in this room decides something, you have just come to a consensus. Pretty simple. With these plans, there's a predetermined outcome. So even if this whole room wanted to go to Pizza Hut afterwards, if I'm the facilitator of this meeting and I say Pizza Hut is no good, we're going to Godfather's, we're going to Godfather's. And you're all going to Godfather's, even though you want to go to Pizza Hut. That's consensus. So how do they do it? First of all, you're not allowed to speak in these meetings unless you have a name tag. Who gets a name tag? Only the people who were specifically invited, who are easily pressured, manipulated, or threatened. So if you get a name tag, you get to talk. But you're probably not going to because you know that you'll be put on a list and the city's going to say that business doesn't want to play.
Useful idiots.
All right, Plan Fort Collins programs broke our budget because we figured out once we adopted it, we had no money to implement the plan. So what they do, here we go with the heart again. City officials threatened to cut the programs that would have hurt the most vulnerable people the most. Senior citizens, the disabled populations, minority populations. They threatened to stop driving disabled people to their doctor's appointments because we could not afford the service. That's coming to Cheyenne. That's not okay with me. They threatened to close a senior center in a community because they couldn't pay for a bike lane. What's the priority? So there is plenty of money in our budget for other programs, not for seniors, not for disabled rides, not for things that truly government is there to help the people and serve the people. Here's what we're doing in Fort Collins. $4 million in rebates if we buy government-approved appliances, $600,000 for a bicycle coordinator, bicycles and bicycle education. We spend $2,000 per mile to clear our bicycle trails. We cannot clear our snow from our roads that we drive on, but we are spending $52,000 every time it snows to clear bike trails. And of course, they say we have no money for fire, road, and police, so the voters did approve a $20 million sales tax increase. $20 million sales tax increase. How are locally owned businesses impacted? So we have, in Fort Collins now, we have all these bicycles. City buys bikes with taxpayer money. The city funds a free bicycle repair shop. And the city lets people use bikes for free. So how does that impact a small bicycle shop? It's going to put them out of business. Here's the thing about those free bikes that the city is providing to people. Only certain people can use the free bikes. Guess who can't use the free bikes? The people who could use it the most. If you don't have a credit card or a debit card, you are not allowed to use a free bicycle, which in downtown Fort Collins, a lot of people don't have a debit card or a credit card, and they could sure use a bicycle to get to work. But they can't use those free bikes that we're all paying for because they don't have a credit card. All right, here's some more money. How to ride bikes, we're spending $250,000. How to feel when you're walking outdoors, we're spending $835,000. We are trying to figure out how to create a tax on driving in Fort Collins. We're spending $150,000 to study that. Now, we're teaching people how to buy light bulbs and appliances. $9.3 million is what we're using in that education program. We're also teaching people how to shower, do laundry, and how to water your lawn. $1.4 million for that. You cannot make this stuff up. If you have questions, I would love it if you would write it down, and we'll take them at the end. If you don't feel you can remember them, we'll take questions at the end. Here we go again. $439,000 to paint those utility boxes. Remember, it's teaching kids to play in dangerous areas. And a lot of times people's opinion of art is subjective, so we may be paying a lot of money out for these things that most people don't really enjoy. We were paying a bicycle coordinator, city employee, the same as we were paying a law enforcement, an entry-level law enforcement officer. And remember, we didn't have enough money for law enforcement officers, but we do for a bicycle coordinator. All right, so there's a whole program that costs $835,000 for the city to tell businesses how to change light bulbs and how to wash dishes. Small business owners, if they're still in business, they succeeded because they know how to do it already, right?
You think so?
Okay, why a sales tax increase? This is key. You're looking at Plan Cheyenne here, it's just like Plan Fort Collins. 73% of Plan Fort Collins workshop attendees voted to live beyond their financial means to achieve sustainable goals. 73%. All right, the City of Cheyenne budget. Raise your hand if you've read your budget that was adopted for 2014. Come on. So the 2014 budget for Cheyenne is entertaining to read. Do you know why? There aren't very many programs yet from Plan Cheyenne earmarked in there.
Yeah.
That's really cool. But next year, it's going to look all different, and it'll be a lot more fun to read because you'll get to read about how much you're spending to teach people how to feel when they're outside. Right now, it's kind of dry. Hopefully, you can stop it before it gets there. So you're going to change your budgeting process from simple, how much money do we have, how much do we need for this program, is going to be changed into how does it impact the environment, how does it impact the economy, and how does it impact society. Is that how you budget for your own personal budget? You have money for the utility bill, you pay that, right? Pretty simple. It's all changing for Cheyenne. Who knows best how to use your money? Quick. Who knows best? You do. Plan Cheyenne actually says it knows best how to use private money. Remember, taxpayer money is public money. They're not talking about public money anymore. They're talking about how to use private money. How will they access your money?
Taxes.
It's all in the plan. And one of the most beautiful things that happened at the Planning Commission on Monday, remember what was right ahead of the public hearing on Plan Cheyenne? Raising what? What were they going to raise?
The fees.
Fees. What's a fee? Tax. That's how they they access your private money? It's all in here in the Unified Development Code. And this is fun reading too. What does livability mean? Because Cheyenne's going to become a livable community now. Is it livable now?
Yes.
Raise your hand if you think it's pretty good to live in Cheyenne. It's pretty livable. That's cool. If I ask this in Fort Collins, guess what happens? Maybe. It's not like that in Fort Collins. First of all, they're afraid to answer because who's watching it, who's recording it, who's filming it, and who's going to hurt me with that information. All right, so livability means that if you're going to have a party at your home now, say people over after church or Super Bowl party, you're going to need to register that with the city before you have it. Sounds unbelievable. So let's talk about that. If you don't register your party and you get a noise complaint in Fort Collins, you get automatically fined $1,000 and it's a criminal misdemeanor. Criminal misdemeanor. Because you didn't register first. Goes on your record. Okay, what's an unauthorized home occupant? That means if you have an 8-bedroom house, 8 bedrooms, you are not allowed to have more than you plus 2 other people living in that house. What does that do to the rent and the housing market? So we have an occupancy ordinance that requires you to not have more than 3 unrelated people in one building. You can have a family of 28,000 people in 1-bedroom house. That's legal. But if you're not related to them, you can't do it. If you do it and you get caught, it's $1,000 a day. And here's our just proof, so you know I'm not making this up. 2 days before the Super Bowl, the newspaper the police reminded everybody in Fort Collins, register your party if you're having a Super Bowl party. Can you even conceive of this? It's in the plan. What do the Unified Development Codes have to do with Plan Cheyenne? Remember, they were updated in 2013. They're inseparable and they're binding documents, so they both work off of each other. Binding and inseparable. So Plan Cheyenne contains the concepts and ideas, and the code is how it's going to happen. Plans and ideas, how it's going to be implemented. What is severability? Are there any attorneys in the room? If there are, I don't know if I'd admit it, actually. So, there are some good attorneys. Very, very good attorneys, yes. All right, so severability. You all know about the political sign issues that you had in Cheyenne? Who won? The people? The people won. You can put as many political signs in your own private property as you want now. Severability means that in Plan Cheyenne and the UDC document, if something like that happens and you sue and you win, it only applies to that one little thing you sued on. So severability means that it's all separate. You can't just sue based on the whole plan being a violation. You can only sue on that one little tiny part. So that means you have to file hundreds of lawsuits to get any justice against these plans. All right, severability and livability in action is a perfect example. It wasn't a livable concept to have political signs more than how many was it, 2 or 3? 2? You could only have certain things in your yard. Well, that's because you didn't want to offend the neighbors, and it wasn't livable for your neighbors to have 4 signs in the yard. That's livability. You can only sue on that one issue, and that's severability. And you see why people don't want to read these documents? Because they're really confusing. And they use language that most people don't care to learn or really understand, and that's intentional. Education, this is the fun part. We're going to flip through these quickly. This is the education portion of Plan Cheyenne and the UDC codes. Make efficient choices, check out Fort Collins Utilities dishwasher rebates. They're telling you which appliances to buy, then you'll get a rebate. You're actually paying yourself for a rebate. They're saying these appliances are energy efficient. What does the science say? There's no proof that they're energy efficient. Across the board, not entirely, but across the board. All right, education, this is so embarrassing. Use water-sense toilets. Do we really have to have toilet paper rolls on our bus stops to teach people about water sense? All right, here we go. Get out the ruler. Do not mow your lawn to less than 3 inches tall. Can you even believe this? If I was just telling you this without photos, you would think I was nuts. This is actually all over Fort Collins, and it's coming to Cheyenne. I can't wait to see how you guys approach the mowing the lawn thing. I mean, maybe you'll have a horse out there chewing it, not eating enough or something. All right, more education. Utility bills, how does this hurt people? Utility bills in Fort Collins have tripled since Plan Fort Collins was updated a couple of years ago. Tripled. Families, seniors, people on fixed incomes, it's painful. It's painful. Who pays for these audits for your home, energy efficient audits? Taxpayers? Who gets paid to do the audit? Private businesses who want to sign up with the city, which means they have strings attached. So private businesses and the city are now in partnership. And why are these people so happy? They can't even stand up straight in their home. Shrink your usage, that's supposed to make you happier. Multimodal streets, who knows what vehicular cycling is? Vehicular cycling? Not running over bicycles. Okay, I did not laugh at that. What it is teaching people to use the full lane that is designed for street vehicle traffic, cars, buses, for bicycles. So do you see how wide the bike lane is on the side there? These bicycles are using the entire 4 lanes to ride. And I'm actually driving and taking a photo at the same time because nobody's moving. The traffic is so congested behind us that we're waiting for them to clear the road. That's intentional creation of congestion.
So they're starting to taxing bicycles and licensing them down here?
Yes, actually we do. We're required to license our bicycles. Oh, what's an end of ride facility? Think about bicycling. What's an end of ride facility? Where you park your bike? Yes, sir?
It's one of them new fancy underground storage things they have in China now. You come up, you put your credit card in, it stores your bike underground, and when you come back, they bring it back up, and they pay big money for that.
That would actually be a desirable answer to that question, but that's not it. What it is a shower in your private business. So they're going to encourage private business owners to build showers in their businesses so after you ride your bike to work, you don't offend your coworkers with the aroma What is a bicycle box? A bicycle box is an area at a stoplight or a stop sign that is about the size of those 3 panels in the back. Look how big that area is. Those 3 brown panels, that's the size of a bicycle box. They paint with very expensive special paint on the pavement, this big green area for the bicycle box. And if you're a car, you are not allowed to enter that area. But a bicycle, if he's way at the end of the line of traffic, can go all the way up to the front of the line and sit in front of the cars. That's a bicycle box. Here's the sad part. What happens when a community focuses on teaching people how to ride in the lanes, use bicycle boxes, and basically use the street that was designed for vehicles? What happens? Congestion. A lot of accidents. It's heartbreaking. It's not just adults who are in these bicycle accidents now because the education programs that are going on in the schools because of Plan Fort Collins is teaching children to use the street as if they were a car, and the fatality rate in Fort Collins and the severe accidents is heartbreaking. This is Denver, and instead of having, traffic congestion in Denver is like a nightmare. But we've taken out lanes. Again, look how wide that sidewalk is. We have bike racks, wide sidewalks, 1 lane, high-density compact housing. Mixed-use development is a big update in Plan Cheyenne. That means that you're going to have buildings that have businesses on the ground floor, and then above it will be residential units, so that you don't have to ever get your car. You can do all of your living in that one area. There is no private space in these communities. It's all public. So you can see that green space there. That would be equivalent to your backyard or your front yard. More education. We have a community cycling school. I'll just let you ponder that. Tight is all right. Keep your gas cap tight to prevent gas from evaporating. Do you all know how to put on your gas cap already? Yeah. Low when the sun is low. municipal government gone mad. Okay, more education. This is a tree, this is a urinal. Are you serious? We're spending taxpayer money on this. But it's in your plan. It's in Plan Cheyenne. How much does all that education cost? It's astronomical how much they're spending on this propaganda, on billboards, on everywhere you go in Fort Collins. You'll see how much you don't know. Do you want this plan in Cheyenne? No. Do your elected officials know that?
They've already adopted. They don't care. They don't care.
Do you think your elected officials know what's in the plan?
No.
Do you think they care?
No.
I think they might eventually. We'll get to that.
It's too late.
Our mayor got reelected.
So what are your options? City council can actually vote to reject this plan.
That's too late.
This is the most cost-effective, socially responsible, and environmentally sustainable choice for City Council to say, no, we're not doing the update. Probably won't happen. City Council can pass a resolution to refer Plan Cheyenne to the vote of the people. That would be really cool. All right, because whose responsibility is this country? The people. We elected our officials to represent us, but if they're not able to because of the plan, then it's our job. The people of Cheyenne, if the City Council won't refer to the voters, the people of Cheyenne have their own process. You can initiate. You can do it. You can get signatures. You can get it on a ballot yourself. It takes a lot of work, but it's not going to be nearly as much work as fighting every single program that's in that plan. So I would suggest you call them and tell them what you think, because they're all thinking that these 75 people who plan Cheyenne, that's what everybody wants in the city. They believe that. And remember, this impacts the county also. More options. Now this is the cool part. There are already legal remedies in place. It's called the Wyoming Constitution. United States Constitution and the Wyoming Revised Statutes actually say that this is not okay. But nobody wants you to know that. The consulting firm, you know what they said on Monday? They actually said that what they were doing that night was required by federal law. But what they didn't explain was that the public meeting that was being held was the only part that was required by federal law. They made it seem like the plan was required. The plan is not required. All right, here's what's rapid justice. If you file an individual lawsuit against an individual elected official because they're adopting a plan that they know is going to harm you, that's already in the statutes for Wyoming. You have a right to do that because you're being harmed. Or you could do nothing. Pretty easy to do nothing, but what it means to Cheyenne is devastation. Fort Collins is losing businesses left and right. We cannot afford Plan Cheyenne. We can't afford Plan Fort Collins. We have a lot more money than Cheyenne does because we are a university town. Cheyenne is on a fast track because Fort Collins is your sister city. We've been through it. We know how to get it done really quick here. So I would suggest also, if you have time to, I know it's a horrible time, at 3:30 on February 13th, there is a public hearing. It'd be great if you would go and voice your opinion to the county commissioners. I would also call your mayor.
That's a lot.
Just for the record, I do not know your mayor, so the laughter I'm hearing I do not understand. I can imagine, but I don't understand it. Call him and say, you know, I'm worried. Ask him if he's read the plan.
He said, yeah.
He's read, excellent.
He said on the radio he read it. And he
Perfect. So if he's read it, and does he support the plan?
No plan and sticker.
Okay, so call him anyway. If everyone in this room called him and respectfully said, this is a problem, you might want to rethink this because there are some legal remedies that might be coming your way, maybe you'll think about what's in it.
City council.
Questions, I love them. So here's how we're going to do questions. If you'll raise your hand, I'll call on you and you can ask it. I'll repeat the question so everyone can hear it. If you don't want to ask it out loud, write it on a piece of paper, hand it to somebody, and they'll bring it to me. Yes, ma'am.
What is the benefit of those large homes being built? I understand the density, that they want to take up a small single-family residence and put in high density. But I was surprised to see a new large home built where there had at one time been a couple of small homes. What is the advantage of that?
So the question is, what is the advantage to those monstrous houses that are going in next to these, you know, like 1,100 square foot houses? And the advantage is that there is no lawn to water, so they're saying that saves water. But what it does to the people who can afford that is, let's be honest, most people cannot afford a house that fills a third of a city block. So the people who can afford that are impacting the property values for everyone else. Property values are going sky high, so that little white house that was next to it, you cannot sell it for what you could have previously. So you have to sell it basically so it's scraped. They'll scrape that white house, put in a similar monster house next to it. The benefit is only for the most wealthy in the community. It's heartbreaking.
Thank you.
In the back, sir.
You know, it seems like this is just Agenda 21.
Yes, it is.
Raise your hand if you know Agenda 21. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah, that is cool. That's cool. When I started doing this 6 years ago, I would say raise your hand if you've heard of Agenda 21 or the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives, and this is what it looked like. There are no hands in the air.
Yes, wait.
6 years later, we know what Agenda 21 in I.C.L.E.I is.
Hey, Stacy.
Very sweet, yes, sir.
If you could just say your first name for the media's sake and then ask your question, it'll help them.
Excellent. Over there in the corner.
My name's Luke. Have there been any communities that you know of that have successfully beat this or stopped it or whatever?
Yeah, that gives me chills. Actually, there have been whole states now that have voted Agenda 21 and I.C.L.E.I programs out. So it is possible, but the key is that people have to know what it is, know how it's being implemented, and then do something about it. So whatever that looks like for Cheyenne is going to be different. Each community truly is unique, and that is why when they say you're going to preserve your unique Western heritage, I hope you find a way to do that legally and peacefully. It is possible, sir.
Yes, Eric.
I noticed I had a thing up there, government-approved appliances.
Yes.
I think I know a whole lot about that. These are appliances with smart chips in that correspond with smart meters. This is one way of tracking our carbon footprint. On the amount of usage of appliances, could you get into that?
Yes.
Smart meters and appliances.
I love the question. So he's asking about smart appliances and smart meters. So you get a rebate if you buy an Energy Star rated appliance. The Energy Star ratings are applied by the industry themselves. So there is no scientific proof that those appliances are saving energy. They do cost a lot more. And they all of these government-approved appliances have chips in them now. Smart chips, so that when you get a smart meter on your home, the local utilities office can actually control that appliance from the utility office. And I am so proud to be able to say this, and your question is perfect. We have Virginia Farber here today. Does anybody know Virginia Farber? Virginia, can you come to the front, please? She is our expert on smart meters. And as she's coming up, I will tell you why I'm asking her to come to the front. She also is from Fort Collins. She became passionate about smart meters and what's happening with all of the emissions from these various devices, because she has a personal connection to it. So I'll let her tell you briefly about that. And if you have smart meter questions, she's your expert.
Yes, thanks, Stacy. Wasn't planning on this, but anyway, I lost a son in 2008, and he was involved in a brain cancer cluster of people on the San Diego State University campus, and it involved eight people, and there was a cell tower involved. And my son's story actually got the World Health Organization to reclassify non-ionizing radiation to a class 2B carcinogen. This is the same as DDT or lead. And there are calls for this to now be classified as a class 2A carcinogen. There's a lot of states that are going to start putting warning labels in cell phone packaging, not to put these items to your heads or bodies. And anyway, I'm in a film called Take Back Your Power, and you can look this up online. It's if you type in www.takebackyourpower.net, and it's movie that's gone viral, and it just won an award. So, and anyway, I'm involved with a lot of people fighting these smart meters around the United States. For instance, Fort Collins took an $18 million grant, and for the first time in 75 years, they borrowed $15 million. And this is without pretty much the consent of all the residents of Fort Collins. They've had, most of the utilities had very little informed meetings for people to know what is being put on their homes. These meters emit pulsed radiation into and outside of each home. And I just heard last week a gentleman by the name of Curtis Bennett from Thermographics said that with all these meters chattering between homes and then onto utility poles, it creates what's called a cloud. And there's 1.8 billion pulses per second in this cloud. And it is actually damaging to the very concrete foundations and building materials of our homes. And so you can imagine what this is doing to our bodies. And he announced that we are all getting full body radiation at 137 times per minute. So this, he basically said this will kill you and your children. So,
Virginia, could you just explain what a smart meter is, just in case people...
Okay, a smart meter is an electric meter that is put on the outside of your home that will tell you how much energy usage. It's for your electric power. And these things, they have two-way communications. They're wireless. They're basically a cell tower on the side of your home. And the utilities will now tell you that you can get a digital analog meter, but these things emit spiked electricity throughout the wiring in your home, and it causes dirty electricity, which can also make you sick. And there's a lot of lawsuits that are starting now across the nation. We're trying to get a ban on this. We're trying to get this whole smart grid stopped because it is so very, very damaging to the environment and to everybody living in it. So we need to get these stopped, and I hope you guys do not take this grant money and put these on our homes. And I have a feeling that
They're already here.
Oh, they're already here? Okay, well, you might want to start working on getting these off of your homes. I have documents here out of Maine where the utilities were caught lying about the transmissions and how much they're transmitting. And so I was just on a conference call today, and a lot of this stuff is starting to go nationwide. But the movie Take Back Your Power, you try and get that into your community, and that will educate you guys a lot about this. A lot of the experts are coming out about the dangers of this stuff. So, anyway.
Thank you so much, Virginia. So out of tragedy many times comes some really amazing human beings, and Virginia is one of those amazing human beings. I have a question from the commissioner, but first I want to say there are a number of people from out of state here today, and if you are comfortable, I'd like you to raise your hand. And the reason for that is because I want the people of Cheyenne to know that there are people in Colorado who do not want to see your community being destroyed. Thank you. So they can
Stacy, Emily, I just want to ask a couple questions to connect the dots. UDC code were passed to implement Plan Cheyenne, right?
The UDC codes were updated in 2013 specifically to act as the enforcement for Plan Cheyenne.
And they're calling it a living document. Liberals have often wanted to get rid of our Constitution because it's the black letter of the law, and we've been winning some victories since File 104. All right. The sign ordinance, Constitution comes through. They're naming it on their front page, a living document, Plan Cheyenne.
And one of the reasons that people across the political spectrum use that word living document is because they think it removes their accountability to the people and to the Constitution. But there are statutes and there are legal procedures right now where you can remove the supposed protection that elected officials have and that these documents have. There's really exciting stuff on that. Yes, sir.
And thank you so much for coming up and clarifying this. When you have smart meters in Fort Collins, are they shutting your appliances off right now? Because they think we're crazy by saying that because they have the chips in them. Are they shutting appliances off right now, the utility companies, and is the utilities going out of sight now?
Virginia, can you come back up, Virginia? As you're walking in here, I'm going to make the comments on that. If you, in Fort Collins, if you refuse a smart meter on your home, yes, there's a way to do it, and we have another gentleman in the back who's done it a number of times because they keep coming back and putting one on, so she can answer that for you.
I have a document that so far has kept mine off, but yeah, about 2 months ago, I had a showing of this film, Take Back Your Power, and immediately afterwards we started getting certified letters that they were going to shut our power off. And I've been a long-time resident of Fort Collins, and anyway, we got past that hump, and supposedly my power is going to be shut off on February 14th. These Energy Star appliances, none of them include gas as well, just so you know that. They will phase out gas appliances. And about 2 weeks ago, we've had this really cold spell. In Alabama, there were a couple of cities that they shut off all the power to all of the customers during the middle of the night, and the people woke up the next morning and were calling in to find out why their heat wasn't coming back on, and they said they were using too much energy. So what happened was that the city leaders were telling people, if you or your family get cold, you need to go into the town centers to warming stations. So we're in a lot of trouble with these meters, and yes. And plus, the city of Fort Collins, the Colorado had an article November 24th that basically said that they had a confidential list of problem utility customers, and that's me. And anyway, the Department of Energy had already deployed 200 cameras around town, and they were planning on deploying several dozen more. So this whole grid system also includes all of these security and surveillance cameras. So just so you guys are aware of that.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
This isn't a question, it is just looking at what has been said here today and just looking at the phase out of gas appliances and then going back to how the city gets money. This is an energy-rich state. And if we all rode bicycles, we would be hurting actually the grant money that comes to the city and Emily, I think the county, that this money is sitting there for the city and I think the county to come and use, but it comes from the energy that is produced in this state, and certainly the gas is one of those things that we certainly want to sell. So it's a tautology that it is just around and around and around, and we should let the mayor and the city council know that we have to be very wise in what we're setting up. I think that your presentation today has been tremendous to show us that an energy-rich state, we don't pay taxes because of the energy, and that it's going to hurt us.
Right. So your comments on energy are key. Remember how I talked about what the consulting firms do with your input and how they synthesize things? In Plan Cheyenne, guess what they've said about your energy? I wish I could find the direct page. What it says about the energy in the state of Wyoming is that you're in trouble. You're running out. You're running out of resources. you're not running out of resources. What you're running out of is the authority to use what you own, what you have. And the authority has been, and the commissioner we had a great interchange about the authority issue here, because he's an elected official. You elected him to represent you. So this plan says that you have an energy issue. Wyoming does not have an energy issue. You have all you need for a long time. But they're going to say that it's a problem so that they can implement this. And so, do you remember how that interchange happened with us about the authority aspect?
Well, what you revealed was the 15 parking spots they took away from downtown Fort Collins and made it all green energy. When the person came to them and the businesses and said, this is costing us $300 a day, why did you do this, Fort Collins City Councilman? They said, we didn't. The authority went to the transportation company, goes right around your elected officials and starts putting this, we got to go green, and forcing you to do so. I'd like to make a point. $114 million goes to MPOs, unelected bureaucrats. They bring this car salesman pitch of something really good. If it has a leaky gas tank, they never, ever say the bad stuff that's in here. Today you've learned what's bad. You know it's $114 million. You, as voters, get a vote on 5th penny sales tax, $100 million. 6th penny sales tax, you voted 2 down, but it was still $98 million. How many would like to see this be on the ballot and voting for it?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there comes a point that we cannot sustain this cost coming from federal government with strings attached, going to MPO, unelected officials. Then in one more thing before folks have to leave. Thursday, 13th, county planning meeting, suite 300 in our building where we decide stuff. The county planners get this. How many will show up? All it would take, this meeting here, this many people in that county meeting, and then turn around and it goes to city council in about 2 weeks. It comes back to the county commissioners in 3 months. I want to see how many hands of people would show up to the county meeting. This is the town halls, and this is how effective they can be. The lady in green has the email list of your city council. How many would email them this week and the county commissioners, let them know you want to say no to Plan Cheyenne? Raise your hands and come around. I want Stacy to answer your question, but I had to get that in.
I would like to say one thing. I know a lot of you've been in this liberty, freedom fight for a long time, and it's normal to get tired, and it's normal to say, I quit. Nothing is changing. But truly, after 6 years, I can say there are things changing, and if you can stick with it and keep fighting this update to the plan, you can be successful. And if Cheyenne can be successful under the leadership of a county commissioner, you will get the most fabulous national recognition, because elected officials do not normally have the courage to take a stand like this. So I'll do some more questions, but first I want to personally thank this new relationship we have.
Stacy, very minor. When I interviewed you, Stacy, one of the things that I found out with Plan Cheyenne on that map, the consensus of looking at it, when it goes all the way down to the border of Wyoming, the Fort Collins one comes all the way to the border of Wyoming. Can you give an idea of why that is and what's happening with the borders coming together?
Yeah, that's a great question. What we have going right now is called regional transportation planning or metropolitan planning organizations. And so we're starting to blend our communities. Even if we have a border between states, if you have a planning organization in Colorado that touches a planning organization in Wyoming, those groups get together, and guess what they use to make decisions? Consensus. So let's say we have Casper, Cheyenne, and Laramie, all part of a planning organization. Casper and Laramie decide something that would be best for their communities. They vote for it. Cheyenne votes against it, but because you're part of this organization, you have agreed to the consensus model. Cheyenne gets what Laramie and Casper want. And so that's why they have such far-reaching boundaries, is so that all of these organizations can make decisions. And where are the elected officials again in this process of consensus?
I know nothing.
They don't exist. And so our whole system of government has been transformed through these plans that are being made by consulting firms. Because your elected officials do not have the authority anymore. Yes, sir.
Where can we find out who's on this list of 75 people?
Excellent. It's in Appendix A. I'm glad you asked.
How do we get a hold of one of those?
So if you go online and get online to the plancheyenne.org or .com, it depends on where you look. Just put Plan Cheyenne in your search bar, it will come up. Then in the search bar in Plan Cheyenne, type in Appendix A, and it will give you a list of the people who participated. And then you can start following the money trails, and that's when it gets really fun.
Stacy, can I add this? During those meetings in 2006, it was down at the depot. And this is what happens. You get 30 staff members signing there in favor of it. Only 45 citizens were there out of the 75. And I witnessed myself, the MPO director, signing in favor of Christensen Vidal. And I asked him about it. This is for the public, not the director. And he was signing it, saying he's in favor of a roundabout, again, on Pershing, included in that Christensen Vidal. It's a plan that the MPO's come up with.
What's interesting, when you go and look at this document online, they actually have copied your comments. If you did participate in any way in the handwrote comments during these public meetings, they have them on there for now. I printed them right away because a lot of times they'll take those off of the net as soon as it gets publicity. But most of the comments from the people who did participate are saying, this doesn't sound good, I don't want this, this sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money, how much it's going to cost. So you can actually read comments from people who did participate. But Appendix A will list all of the stakeholders. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Lorraine. Is Fort Collins getting ready to ask to have this brought to a vote of the people?
Unfortunately, we just finished our update process, and so it was adopted. Our update plan Fort Collins was adopted after basically the same time we did our $20 million sales tax increase. So we're done. We could not fight it. We don't have the same spirit as Cheyenne does. Cheyenne has a lot more solid basis for fighting it. Yes?
MPO is Agenda 21.
Yes.
Tom Mason told me he is Agenda 21.
It's good when they admit that freely.
Yes, he admits it freely. He's proud of it.
He doesn't have a choice.
Anyway, if we've got our Wyoming Constitution behind us, and we have the right to ask for this to come to a vote of the people, we have got to do it, and I'd like to see I.C.L.E.I spearhead this, but let me tell you, I have been going to these meetings since number 1, and you'd be surprised how few people go. And that's, so if we get this, we're going to get it because we acted like we don't give a damn. I want Cheyenne and Wyoming to remain the people we have always been. And doggone, I'm sick and tired of hearing all this stuff about how they're going to control us. Pretty soon it'll be like it is in Sochi, Russia. You can't go to the bathroom because there's a camera in the corner that's taking a picture of you and you're in there with somebody else. Let me tell you, if you don't get angry about this, then I'm the only one that goes to these meetings and gets up and says my piece. But you can't do it if you're alone. But you, as a group, can do it.
What I would like to say to that is, aren't people beautiful?
adopted her. Party grandma. I'm her son.
Now listen to me. You got elected officials that say, this is free federal money. Run from that. Because it's greed. It is evil to ask our children's children to pay for $17 trillion in debt. When they say that if we don't take this money, somebody else will, that's code words for big government. Elect people that will say no to Plan Cheyenne and no to federal money with strings attached, and you'll have a good candidate.
I just want to encourage everybody here. I'm accused of preaching to the choir. Well, sometimes you need to preach to the choir just to keep the curtain up. We each know at least 10 people who trust us, who aren't here today. You need to talk to, just make a plan to talk to the 10 people you know, to get them to show up at the county planning, city planning, and city council again, and county commission. If we make a commitment to do that through this winter and spring, we can probably stop this thing. If we get this thing stopped in Cheyenne, we can spread that around Wyoming. We're a small town with very long streets. If we stop it here, we'll get it stopped in our state, and we need to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always wonderful to come to these meetings where everyone is on the same page and you're passionate. Now you've seen some really disturbing images on the screen. You're motivated and you feel this wonderful energy in the room to do something and to stop it. And as soon as you go out those doors, it's going to go whoosh. And you're going to get discouraged and you may feel like there's no way you can stop a plan that is this embedded already. But you can. But it can take only the people here. It can take you right here. It could take 2 of you. But the more you have, the easier it's going to be and the quicker you can get it done. I would just encourage you to when you leave the room, keep that feeling that you have right now, that cohesive energy that you have so that you can make a difference. Yes, Betty?